friends. Up till now in Unit 1 we have discussed the basic definition of service. We understood the different types of service industries which are there, and we talked about some of the trends as far as service sector is concerned. And then we talked about the reasons for the growth in the services sector, right? So these were the reasons that we discussed. And then in the last session that we had, we talked about the different classification of services. So we talked about basically different ways of classifying the services, right? And this was what we had discussed. Now is the time for us to move on to the difference between goods and services, right? Before starting off, let me tell you that when you talk about marketing, you have already gone through marketing management. Therein we use a term product, right? Now that product is used to mean both goods as well as services, right? So if somebody is using the product term, if somebody is using this particular term product, that would mean both goods or services, right? On the other hand, if you are talking specifically about a good or a service, then you will have to use the term good or service, right? So whenever you are using product as a term, then it means both goods and services. Fine. Now let us understand what is the difference between a good and a service. Now have a look at this particular picture. You will find that this is basically Bajaj brand of hair oil. Now this is an example of a good, while the massage that you get at the barber's shop, right, that would be an example of a service. So this is the broad difference between a good and a service. Why I have taken up this example is because now when you buy oil, you are buying a product, and when you are not buying the oil but you are actually buying the massage service from a masseur, then you are actually buying a service. So though the origin is the same, ultimately here also the oil is being applied, but this basically is an example of service, while this is an example of a product, right? Now let's do a point by point comparison between the comparison of goods and services. Now in the first column here you see the characteristics, and then we have talked about how these characteristics apply to goods and what are the characteristics of services, right? And this will give you the point of difference between goods and services. Now if you look at the output in case of goods is basically tangible. Tangible is something that you can see or touch or hear, right? And which you can probably also show to others. Fine. So when you buy this hair oil, you can see it. So that is an example of a tangible item, and these kind of tangible items, they are known as goods. However, if you cannot see the output, right, then that would be an example of a service. For example, when you are getting this particular hair oil applied by a masseur, then you cannot see the output. You are getting the massage, but how do you define the output? Can you touch the output? Can you touch the massage that you are getting? Can you see the massage that you are getting? Can you keep it for yourself and show it to others also, the kind of massage that you are getting? No, you cannot do that. So that is a difference between goods and services, and that is why services are called intangible. You cannot see, you cannot touch. You can of course experience the output, but you cannot see or touch it. You cannot keep it, or you cannot show it to others, right? So this is the basic difference between goods and services, and the term that we will use again and again in the course of our discussion on marketing of services is tangibility and intangibility. Tangibility is a characteristic of goods, while intangibility is a characteristic of services. Now have a look at product uniformity. I hope you understand. Right in the beginning I told you product may refer to either goods or services. Fine. So if the product is uniform, right, generally uniform output, then you are basically actually using a good. On the other hand, if there are slight variations in the product, in the output, then you are probably using a service. Let me give you another example. This bottle that you purchase, another bottle of the same brand that some of your friends purchase or maybe some relative purchases, they would be having the same quality, same price, same weight, same fragrance. So the output would be uniform. On the other hand, this may not happen with the case of this massage. Supposing you are getting this massage today and you return after another week to get the same massage from the same masseur, the quality of massage that you get in two instances might be very, very different. It may so happen that on one day the masseur is in a good mood and he is giving you a good massage. On the other day, he may not be in a good mood. He might have had some conflicts with maybe his colleagues in the shop, and because of which the quality of massage might suffer. So the output would be very variable. What if some of your friends go to the same masseur to get the same massage? The output may differ there also, right? So this is the difference between goods and services. Now have a look at what actually carries a value in terms of the benefits that the customer is able to obtain from using a particular product. So if it is a good, the value is in the thing. For example, in case of this oil, the value is this particular product, this particular good that you are purchasing, the item that you are purchasing. On the other hand, in case of massage, the value is in the process. For example, the process of getting the massage. Now that is what is giving you a soothing experience, is soothing your nerves, is helping you relieve your pain, get relieved from your pain. So the process is the value carrier. Fine. Now let's have a look at return. Can you return a good? You certainly can return a good. Supposing you open up this particular bottle and then you find that the quality of this particular hair oil has deteriorated, you can certainly return it to the retailer from where you have purchased it, and you might also demand a refund. On the other hand, supposing you are not happy with the quality of massage that you have got, after 30 minutes of getting the massage you are certainly not very happy, and then what do? Can you tell the masseur, ये आप अपनी मसाज जो अभी आधे घंटे पहले करिए वापस ले लो और मेरा पैसा कर दो वापस? You simply cannot do that. So you cannot return a service. You can return a good, but it's very, very difficult. In fact, it is impossible for you to return a service. Fine. Now have a look at the ownership. Now in case of goods, who becomes the owner? The person who purchases the product becomes the owner. So for example, when you purchase this hair oil, you become the owner. Earlier the owner was the retailer probably, and when he sells it to you, you become the owner. On the other hand, how do you define ownership in case of services? Who was the owner of this service? And has he passed on this particular service ownership to you? So maybe this masseur, if you say that this was the guy who owned this service, the massage service, has he passed on the ownership to you? No. You cannot say that now you are the owner of this massage service. You simply would not be able to say that. So it's simply not possible to transfer the ownership in case of services. In the case of goods, it's possible, right? Now have a look at the stock. Can we store the goods? Yes, we can. They can be inventoried. They are inventoriable. What do we mean by this? I hope you remember our discussion in production operations management. Inventory is the stock of something. It could be raw material, it could be finished goods, right? Fine. So what we basically are trying to say here, that goods can be stored. You cannot store the service. Now this is a very, very important point. Point number one, because we'll be discussing this particular point in the forthcoming slides also. Now you can store the goods, but you cannot store the services. For example, if this particular company Bajaj, they can produce the good at night also, in the night shift also, though they know that nobody would be coming to purchase the hair oil at night, but they can keep producing it in the night shift also. But can this particular masseur do this? Can he say, okay, मैं ऐसा करता हूँ कि मैं अभी चंपी कर देता हूँ रात के टाइम पे और मॉर्निंग में आकर मेरा कस्टमर चंपी ले जाएगा? You simply cannot say that, right? You cannot store. Fine. And this is a very, very important point, because ultimately this would mean that in case of services, they have to be produced when the customer is there and ready to consume the service. Think of a doctor. Can he say कि मैं ऑपरेशन आज कर देता हूँ लेकिन आप पेशेंट जो है आप फ्री नहीं है, सो आप कल ले जाना अपना ऑपरेशन हुआ पेट. You cannot say that. You cannot stock the services, and that is why you have to produce the service when the customer is there to consume it, right? On the other hand, hair oil can be produced maybe 6 months before consumption. Can you do it in the case of champi? In the case of massage, you simply cannot do this, right? Now have a look at distribution, right? Now I hope you understand and remember our discussion on 4 P's in marketing management, and then of course in advertising and sales management also. You know that this is the 4th P, product, price, place and promotion. The 3rd P, place. It is possible for you to mass distribute goods. So what might happen is Bajaj may have a factory, let's say in some place in Maharashtra, and they will produce the items there. These hair oil bottles would be produced there and packaged there, and they would be sent across to different parts of the country. Possible. But this is not possible for this masseur to have his shop in Maharashtra and then provide massage service to a customer in Uttarakhand or in Pithoragarh. Not possible. Right? Fine. So this is how the distribution differs in case of goods and services. Let me give you a disclaimer. In some services it is not possible because of the technology that you produce at one place and somebody consumes at some other place. Right? I'll give you an example of education services. For example, I'm sitting at home making the video lecture today, and you would be going through this particular video lecture, listening to this video lecture maybe tomorrow. So there's a difference of time also, as well as of place as well. For example, I am sitting at my home, but you would be consuming not at my place, but you would be actually consuming this particular service at your own home. So there's a difference of place as well. So in such cases, it is possible for us to go for mass distribution, but these cases are very rare and not applicable to all types of services. It is possible for you to do this in case of educational services. For example, I am uploading my lecture, but not possible in the case of a massage, right? Then let's talk about mechanization. Mechanization means use of machines, automation. Generally, it's very, very high in case of goods, while in case of services, it is very low. For example, to produce this hair oil, it is possible for us to make use of number of machines. We might use machines to mix the ingredients, or to maybe package the bottles, or even to manufacture the bottles, to put the label on the bottles. But it's just not possible for me to do this massage without this particular masseur. I will have to have some human intervention, right? So here I am using this particular guy. The hands only are visible in this particular picture, the person who is actually performing the massage. So it's not as if I can replace him by a machine. Of course I can replace him by machine in some cases, but it's not always possible, right? So generally speaking, not always, the level of mechanization is lower in case of services than in goods, right? And because of this, I tell you what will happen, and we'll be studying about this particular aspect again. Because of this, what will happen when you are producing something using machines, the items that you produce, the output would be more or less uniform, right? We have talked about this particular aspect here also, right? While on the other hand, if there is human involvement somewhere, the output may not be uniform throughout. The kind and the quality of service may not be the same in every single instance, because there is a human element, there is a human involvement. And we have said this, what if the masseur is not feeling well on a particular day? He may not be able to perform the massage with the same quality. So there is a lot of variability that might occur in case of services, and this is our point number 2 that we'll be discussing in the forthcoming slides. Then again, let's talk about the customer involvement. Here, when Bajaj oil is getting produced, there is absolutely no customer involvement. So generally in case of goods, there is low or no involvement. On the other hand, in case of this service, yes, there is a very high level of customer involvement. Now what if this lady does not keep her head still? अगर ये अपना सिर सीधा नहीं रखेंगी, don't you think it would be difficult for the masseur to perform the massage, and what might happen? The massage may not be of a very good quality, which will make this particular customer, this particular lady, dissatisfied, right? So what I'm trying to tell you is that here, in case of services, there is an involvement of customers also. Again, this can also be a reason for variability. I'm giving you an example. Supposing today the customer is maybe in a good mood and he's very active, and this lady, let's say, she's very active and she's keeping her head still, so she's getting good quality of massage. But maybe next week she comes, she's a little tired and she's feeling sleepy. So after every 2-3 minutes, she's simply not able to keep her head steady. So after every 2-3 minutes, her head drops down, right? So because of which the quality of the massage will get impacted. So basically there is an impact on the quality, not only because of this masseur, but also because of this customer, this lady. And that is what we said, there is a lot of variation in the quality in cases of services. Now let's talk about the facility location. As I said, in case of goods, you have to generally keep your manufacturing facility or production facility near the source of raw materials. So most of the sugar mills are situated in those places where sugarcane is abundantly available. On the other hand, in case of services, you cannot do that. Why you cannot do that? Because we have discussed here, localized distribution. Just not possible for you to sit in one place and provide the service to the customer who is maybe situated at a very far off distance from you. So what you'll have to do is you'll have to locate yourself closer to customers, right? And that is why you see many of the barbers, cobblers, they're all located in places which are visited by the customer, right? Now let's talk about the producer status. Now have a look at this. What do we mean by this? Can you separate the goods from the production? Yes. Bajaj produces it and then sells it off to some wholesaler or a retailer, and the retailer sells this particular item to you. In case of service, is this possible? Is this possible for you to get this service without this masseur? Not possible. I told you it might be possible in some cases, but generally not possible. It may be possible in some cases, for example, teaching, or maybe, for example, entertainment service. So I perform the music song today, and you might be listening to this song at your own convenience, maybe 2 weeks down the line. So it's possible, but it's not always possible in the case of services. For example, here, this masseur cannot be separated from the services that he or she is providing. So he has to be there when the service is being produced, right? So this another element is what we are going to keep in our mind, and we will be discussing this in forthcoming lectures, right? Now let's have a look at customer role. We have seen that in goods production, customer is only a customer. He is not participating in the production of the goods. In this particular case, I have discussed earlier also that the customer is also a co-producer. How? Because if this lady does not keep her head still, what might happen? The quality of service might get impacted. She has to keep her head still to get a good quality of service. So in a way, she is also contributing to the production of service, and that is why the customer also is in the role of producer of the service. I'll give another example. Now, if she is having pain in a particular part of her head, she will have to communicate this to the service provider. Then only the massage would be of good quality and the masseur would be able to provide good quality massage, right? So herein again there was an involvement of customer in the sense that she told the masseur which part of her head is hurting, right? So that is why we are saying that the customer is a co-producer in case of services. Now have a look at production and consumption. So production and consumption, they can be separate both in time and place. Like I have already told you, Bajaj oil may be produced in 2020 and then you might be purchasing and consuming it and using it in 2021. Produced in a factory in Maharashtra and consumed by you in Uttarakhand. But that may not be possible in the case of services, right? Now let's talk about another dimension in which goods and services differ. Now please look at this particular figure very carefully. You can pause the video here to have a look. Now please understand. Now there are different types of products, there are different types of services. Now have a look. Now if you talk about clothing as a product, jewelry as a product, they are mostly goods, right? On the other hand, if you talk about medical diagnosis, a doctor doing a medical diagnosis, auto repair, going to a mechanic, root canal, going to a dentist, legal service, going to a lawyer, tax consultant, these are mostly services. Now please understand, these are high in search qualities. Products are generally high in search qualities. What do we mean by this? You can go and you can make comparisons, you can have a feel of the clothing before you buy it, you can ask your relatives for their opinion, how smooth the fabric is, you can experience it, you can touch it, you can see it, how good it is looking on you. But would it be possible for you to do this in case of these services? No, it would not be possible, right? So these are those products which are high in search qualities and they are generally goods. On the other hand, these are those products which are high in experience qualities and they are again generally services, but yes, some of the goods can also be high in experience qualities. What do we mean by this? You will have to experience the product to be able to understand, to be able to assess its quality, right? For example, how do you assess the quality of the restaurant meal? Just by looking at it, you cannot assess how tasty it is, right? Fine. Again, for example, let's talk about the hairdressers. You will only be able to assess the quality once you get the haircut yourself. If you do not get the haircut, can you do some comparison? Can you have a look? Can you have some kind of a prediction? Can you forecast the quality? Just without having actually a haircut yourself, you would not be able to do that. On the other hand, even if you do not purchase the clothing or a jewelry, you can still, by having a look at it, by touching it, feeling it, by having a look at it, you would be able to judge the quality, you would be able to forecast the quality with reasonable accuracy. But that would not be the case in these examples, and that's why they are called high in experience qualities. They can be goods as well as services, but generally they are services. And now that is the third category, high in credence qualities. What do we mean by this? Here, if you have to assess the quality, you simply cannot assess the quality even after experiencing it. For example, how can you assess the quality of, let's say, the repair that has happened, or let's say the medical diagnosis that has happened? You've gone to a doctor, got yourself treated. You simply cannot say, or let's say, I'll give you an example. Supposing somebody gets surgery, knee surgery, but how will they be able to understand whether this has been a good quality service provided to him by the doctor, or the knee service, the surgery service was not of a very good quality? They simply would not be able to understand even after experiencing it, right? They would not be able to assess the quality even after experiencing it, and they will have to believe it based on the claims made by the service provider. So they cannot assess the quality even after experiencing. In case of the barber, you can assess the quality once you are experiencing it, but in case of the operation that you have had, the medical surgery that you have, you simply would not be able to assess the quality even after experiencing the operation, right? And so you will have to believe the claim of the service provider, and that is why we are saying that these services, these products, they are mostly services and they are high in credence qualities. So thank you very much for your time. I hope you have understood the difference between goods and services.